So that was a quick introduction, and I know Louis got to get out of here, so we can jump through a couple of the items to get him on the road. We've got an open forum to see a member of the public. If there's anything you'd like to just preamble, otherwise you're welcome to speak on any of the agenda items when we get to them. Just raise your hand. So consent item 4, we've got the meeting minutes. We'll just need a motion and a second.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right.
Beat me to it.
And assume that's approved across the board. Perfect. We've got the election of the chair and vice chair. If you'd like to have a brief discussion on it, and then we can go through some formality.
When there wasn't a few people here.
That's right. There were only three. I think there were 3 here, and I know I didn't vote for myself.
You notice that everybody showed up.
I move we defer this until Louis won.
There you go.
Okay.
We're supposed to write clarification.
Sure.
All right. So I'm not sure how long I've been at the university for 8 years. And so I'm not sure if I joined the first year or not.
I can look quickly on the city's website. I don't have the printout that I usually kept in my binder.
So
What our term limits are,
well, it says, you're allowed 2 4-year terms.
and then they kind of squished it occasionally when somebody joined in a midterm and they wouldn't count that 1 year or something like that.
But there's some exceptions or whatever. I don't know if the university is an exception to this, or do you want new blood or new people and stuff like that, so. I put it out there that
I
I'm
think
happy to
that's-
serve, but I don't know. I just want to break a rule.
Let's see.
Let's spend it.
It's right here. I got it. June 30th, 25. So you have 1 more year, 1 more sentence. This is technically your second term. And I think as we get through this next year, if you could send me an email, I'll forward it to the clerk's office and see if, because of the specificity
Right.
of the seat, it doesn't make much sense for San Jose State to pick somebody else that doesn't have either a
Right.
vested interest or any knowledge in parking and the landscape that we have to randomly select another San Jose State employee to represent their interests. So it makes sense to me to just,
Maybe we can just use your middle name, and last name.
but they might have to amend, some ordinance or something of the city to amend the boards.
I just want to be above board.
No, so you got 1 year. So if somebody would like to nominate him.
We also have 2 vacancies, right? Which we should try to figure out a way.
One is outside SCDA.
I think
Our door now.
Louis
That's Louis.
SGDA,
Oh, okay,
We got the
and
arts.
but we have arts
And an at-large.
and at large.
got it.
So if anybody in the room can think of anybody who would be a good person to bring forward, I keep looking.
I've knocked on all of the arts and events people that I've
I got
known for
ideas.
years, and I try to pitch it in various settings with them and, oh, what is it? Oh, no, yeah, I'm not interested.
I got
So
some
something like a Phil Maresca or something like that.
He's somebody
I just
that
thought
checked
of
with
him.
him.
Mhm.
It doesn't.
We
matter.
checked with him. So if you can sway him, please,
Okay, I'm gonna have a conversation with them.
strong arm.
4 meetings, 2 hours, 8 hours a year. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
and
not
he-
a huge commitment.
And I think if I ask him, we'll see, so.
Okay.
All right, that's fine.
What about the comp bids?
Who?
Or Team San Jose?
Team San Jose, yeah.
Is it?
I think it's a little squishy in that they're a city vendor.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a weird relationship, to have that, but I don't know that it would disqualify them.
Say, was someone from the chamber meeting inappropriate?
I am on the chamber. But I'm not.
The at-large is truly, very flexible. There is no requirement outside of having to live in San Jose, so. Okay.
Moving on.
moving on, so, if you'd like to. We can verbally do this, we printed these out for formality's sake, I don't know that we necessarily even need to use them. If the chair and vice chair that are currently.
Who's the
holding
vice
their-
chair now?
Me.
So the vice chair is not supposed to move into the chair position.
Absolutely.
I don't
You don't
have
have
a
that.
position.
Okay, well, there you go. I mean, I don't know, this is a very informal group, if somebody else wants to do it, I'm happy to do it, if
The
somebody else wants to
responsibilities
do
are
it.
so enormous.
We have to spend more time in area, and I don't know if that's a good or bad, but.
I mean, not in my, I might not to spend any more time.
Oh, I mean, does anybody want to do it?
I think you're fantastic.
That's what we said to Henry for years.
I know. I mean, I'll do it again if you want, but who would would you like to be the vice chair? No?
Charlie.
So there it is.
Okay,
All right.
Unless someone.
all in favor, I'll just vote it down as
Yeah.
five votes for. Perfect.
I thought we needed a counting machine.
The hanging chat.
It's central to my CV right now, so if I don't have this job, I mean, I have nothing.
These slips are 10 years old, right?
Yeah.
We're gonna save them.
You look close.
All right, so we've done that. That's done, chair, vice chair, A and B, C.
5C, so included in the packet is the draft work plan.
Would that be this one right now?
That would be that one. So it looks the same as it typically has, although we've made some changes. I've removed a couple of financial related pieces that weren't impactful to our cadence of the council and kind of moving it through the city process to say that we've kind of ticked the box of going to the board, because I think we were reporting out on financial, by the capital project specifically, at weird intervals. We'll still hit those at the periods of time in which we're doing other financial pieces. You'll see them in there in November. We'll do capital, we'll do mid-year in March, and then we'll kind of preview the upcoming year in the June meeting. But taking some of the updates in September out, it was kind of an add at a different iteration of the board that wanted more details on that. What I've also added in here in conversations with our team in OED is to have them come to the meetings and give us an update, in which I've included a downtown status update. I've done that in September and March, which would be a broad look at things like office vacancy rates, how that's impacting our operations. It's always good to know. We try to keep a tab of it, but it would be a good forum to kind of report out on that. What tenants may be sniffing around, what are they hearing on the street? And then updates on things like development projects. What's in the pipeline for downtown? What are they hearing about timelines? You see the signs come up occasionally where this development project is, in the pipeline, but then it just does nothing. You walk by that same billboard sign at the development site for years, so they can speak more to what's happening. They have a good feel and finger on the pulse to that kind of stuff. So I've added that. I've left some generic descriptors, which I think we can be really flexible with the update on parking operations programs or rates. So that's at every meeting, and whether or not we put something into that, it affords us a lot of flexibility to do things. If we do have a rate change or something that touches that, we'll put it into that slot. But I would like to touch on kind of garage occupancy, where we stand today and where we've been in the future and where we kind of project over time. So I'm thinking we'll do something like that in September in that slot.
You're still coming to the meeting, even with
Yeah.
your promo, okay.
Still here.
One thing, if they could include the downtown status, maybe like a very short update on the BART project.
So that is
would-
in the, so in September, we
Is
got
that
the downtown
transportation?
transportation
So
plan,
that
which that same
includes BART.
team. That is a specific project, but the same team that oversees that will also is hands-on on our project. And then Diridon Station and Airport Connector update in March
Right.
is specific to kind of the part when it touches Diridon, so they'll give us a good update then.
Is your hand up or?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I was,
Sorry,
I just,
good, okay.
all right, yeah.
Go ahead.
Thank you. My name's Jordan Moldow. I'm here representing myself today, but I'm also a volunteer with the local team for San Jose of the Silicon Valley Bicycle Coalition. I know this group focuses a lot on car parking, but I did want to speak for a minute, if you'll allow me, about bicycle parking as well. I know you're very focused on car parking supply, making sure it's available to everyone. And one way to sort of, in a way, increase the amount of parking available to everyone is to give people alternative options for getting into our commercial areas and our parks and our other attractions in the city. And one way of doing that is providing people bicycle parking so that they could bike into downtown, and so on. There is bicycle parking downtown, but not nearly as much as there is for car parking. I meant to look it up, but I forgot. In the city's bike plan, there's some statistics about amount of car parking versus bicycle parking. And I think it was like less than 1% bicycle parking compared to the amount of car parking. So I would respectfully request if the board might consider looking at bicycle parking as part of its charter for the work plan for the next fiscal year. In our garages, so in the San Pedro garage, there is something called the bike link lockers, where, for a very small fee, you can pay to put your bicycle in a secure metal cage. And there's like maybe 16 spaces there, which is great for going to San Pedro. But 16 isn't that many. And the other parking garages, for the most part, don't have that sort of thing. So it'd be nice if the city, working with the board, could work more on bringing bike link to more of the parking garages around the city, and just in general, having more of the metal loop bicycle racks in more places. Again, that would allow individuals to bike into downtown and spend money at businesses, and leave, more car parking available for the people who choose not to bike into downtown. So I respectfully ask for your consideration on that matter. And I'll also have more to say later when you guys talk about daylighting. Thank you.
Very good, excellent presentation.
Can I respond?
Sure.
Your comment. So, I'm at San Jose State, by the way. And so we have multiple options at San Jose State for bikes. And, we have the loops or the racks, and whenever, in my opinion, anyone parks at those racks, it's just, you put up an invitation, come steal. And to me, it's not a good, sustainable solution if we're trying to encourage people to take bikes. We have our other cages that are somewhat similar, though that's not the locker itself. That you have to have a fob and you have to have a way to get in. That's much more secure. We don't get people stealing from those. It's locked and then individually locked. Jessica, I think, has been in here before talking to us about, bike paths and everything.
I think it dovetails and is a critical component to the downtown transportation plan. So that's really the avenue in which.
But I don't think I've ever heard her talk about storage. In the years that I've talked, she's talked to me, and we've talked about bike lanes, we've talked about green
Her
lanes.
team is
I don't think
the
I've heard
reason
that.
why so many of the bike lockers exist at the Market Street Garage. We had a handful of them there, previous to the larger installation, which we did. Is that during COVID when we installed those, or just before?
Right.
Right before. Yeah, so, and we have a couple other of those similar lockers I know we have some in San Carlos.
On the third sheet side.
So is this in our purview, or is this other group in the city, what group would that be?
It's more aligned with the other team.
And that
deals
team
with-
is,
It's the.
has a name?
Yeah, what would be?
No, it's not.
There's a
Is
bike,
it-
there is a bike team.
Yeah, there's a team within.
And
the
that's
micro
within
mobility.
DOT.
Yeah. And
So,
they're charged.
They're under, I think, just.
and do they monitor where they are, how many they are, what occupancy they have, and all that other stuff?
That sounds like we.
So it sounds like that might be your group more than us. Not that we're not not that we're against you. but
No,
we're
I mean, we
supportive.
placed the bike share
Are you
location
familiar with
right
this
outside the
group?
market.
Do you have Jessica's contact?
I know Jessica, we know
Okay.
each other. I've been to the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee meetings, which is, I assume what you're talking about.
I know you're
Yes.
well connected in that lane, and I think the lane that you're already very familiar with is the one that you should continue to pursue
That's
to
the
get
fast
the
lane.
elements. This
Or the
is
slow
not
lane,
necessarily the
actually.
one. To say that we, don't do anything, yeah, we do, to the extent it makes sense for us to use areas within our parking facilities for that. Many of them are just not physically and geometry wise set up to take bike lockers inside. We don't like the conflict of bikes and vehicles in the lanes. The Market Street works because it kind of has that plaza area where you can just walk your bike in. But, I think there's opportunities for us to explore it.
So if that group, you and that group came to us and said, here's our ideas about what we need to do about bike parking in city facilities,
Take it away.
that may be a better approach maybe than trying to go directly to us because that's not our. And is there anybody who handles these things at San Jose State? Is there a particular person there that you could contact to?
Usually you have to have an affiliation with San Jose.
Yeah, you're a student.
A student or a faculty member.
Right.
Access to have
Okay,
access to the club.
is that helpful?
Yeah.
I write my vote.
So I don't know that there's anything else to add on the work plan side of things. This is not, so this is still a work in process. At the next meeting in September, we'll approve it. So if you have any suggestions or recommendations to add or delete from this, this would be a good time to do it. You know how we operate, we have a lot of autonomy and flexibility to add things as we go throughout the year. But
So we don't have to approve this,
Yep.
we just review.
Yep.
E, facility improvement project update.
do you have the slide deck? Are you able to pop it up on the screen? There you go. But thank you, Rebecca. So I think we've mentioned in the past, we've got a current project to replace elevators at 3 of our facilities. It's an over $6 million project to do a lot of the mechanical, the electronics, and then the cabs themselves.
this.
Yes, and no.
related to.
This
that's
is
our budget
specific
report,
to
yeah.
individual
We don't have
projects. You do not have this.
Okay, correct, yeah.
We're just popping it up on the screen. We threw it together after the fact.
So it's 6.3 million, I thought it was 4.5. It's
It probably was.
Yeah.
Overhead.
$6 million.
How many elevators total? That's all I want.
9, 11.
11 total.
Yep.
For $6.3 million,
Yep.
which is $600,000 or so an elevator.
That's a steal. You want to do some more money?
And they're all gonna be done by December, right? Was that still the case?
I think it's gonna be a little longer than that.
I don't care, just tell me what it is.
What
What can I tell my friends in the Rotary if they don't have to complain about the elevators?
Fourth and San Fernando, so we've got 2 of them already in progress now. I think that one trails a little longer than December, if I'm not mistaken. Try to pull it up.
So 2 will be done, are already in the works.
Yeah, so
Does that mean they can just close them down?
so they close the ones they're working on and leave a remaining elevator for
Yeah.
elevators.
And how long do they close them?
A month or 2, maybe a little longer,
Okay,
depending
8
on the
weeks.
necessity of whatever work is
What do you
happening
do in
there.
Second Street if there's only one elevator?
We are not doing Second Street. Good question. So the Third Street garage, we finished 2 of the 3 already. The picture third over, if you will, with the burned floor is the prior picture. It's not the greatest picture, but we went with less graffiti prone walls, a non-rubberized floor to ensure better lighting, less tamper resistant, if you will, for most of the features. So they look good.
Absolutely.
No doubt.
Yeah, okay, I missed it.
Try to
Which,
keep
which
them-
2 of the pictures are
So-
with garage?
That's Third Street.
Okay.
So before is above, below is the after. So we're gonna be adding some signage to delineate the level again, like we did in the before pictures.
So they all should be done within 12 months of now. Is that fair to say?
Yes. There's a freight elevator at the Fourth and San Fernando that had mold damage because water got intruded from the rooftop and got into the drywall. So they have it now hermetically sealed and bringing in the hazmat team to clear out the mold, which will then allow them to do the work on the elevator.
It's even more information than I wanted.
It's like every project, you scratch it and you're like, we're on our way. And
Always
then something.
great.
Market Street Garage, we had to spend $30,000 in addition to what was planned so there's two elevators. One has been long out of service. It had been vandalized and burned. The other one was working and the plan was just, do this one, and leave the elevator that's working, but the elevator that was working had a bad call, panel. So we replaced that to ensure that it could work while we did the work on the other one and then flip flop the garage. We have added for $13,000 a elevator security switch. So what we are doing now at the Fourth and San Fernando garage is turning the elevators off during late night hours. So you can still call the elevator from within the garage, but from the ground floor after 2 a.m., you can't call the ground floor elevator to go up. We have signage posted. If somebody's in a situation where they need access to the elevator, the security team will respond, come over and let them into the elevator. It's an effort to curb people sleeping in them and vandalizing them during the overnight hours. There's very little, if any, activity between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. So we're testing this out to see if we can quell some of the damage. Part of the project included motors. Did a motor, love our little pictures here. That's a motor.
That's a new motor.
Oh, there's the mold.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
So we've got an after picture of some of the remediation work to clean out the mold. What else we got about? Okay, so we reported out on this convention center LED lighting upgrades. So we standardized the lights. We had done all of the other garages in our portfolio over the last couple of years. The convention center still had old fluorescent fixtures with LED tube lights inserted into them. Our city electricians, Team San Jose went ahead with that project on their own without kind of really getting city approval. It's been several years. Those lights had started to fail. Team San Jose no longer had the parts. The manufacturer they used no longer was available. The city wanted to standardize it. We paid for the project to upgrade the lights to a city standard LED fixture. So it looks a lot better. It has the ability to dim the lights when there's no activity, come on based on motion. So I think when there's no activity, it goes to 50%. And then upon motion, it goes to 100, I think is the game plan. They're still doing some programming, if I'm not mistaken. At Fourth and San Fernando, we spent about $30,000 adding 22 new light fixtures in areas that we identified that were a little dark. Outside of the elevators on the ground floor and a couple of spots within the garage. Did that.
Harry, weren't we gonna have a meeting at the command center at some point?
Yeah, so I want to put that on the thing and maybe just informally do it after a meeting.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we have to,
I've already
agendize
had
it
mine
for public
but I
meeting
think
and everything
everyone
else.
should know.
So I think it's just after one of these meetings, you guys would like to do it, is you can just walk on over. Third Street Garage, we upgraded the lights on the rooftop. So when we did the LED fixtures in the garage, we did not do the rooftop lighting. It was a different fixture at the time, so we just did that. So these are some of the little things when we say we did like minor facility improvements. Obviously, the elevator is its own standalone capital project line. It has its own appropriation of monies. All these other things that we're talking about, rooftop lighting, incremental little lights here or there, are what we categorize as minor facility improvements. And these are the types of things that we're doing. So this was actually a minor, but it was a big dollar amount. We repaved the South Hall parking lot.
Wow,
It's nearly $300,000.
worth it.
We did some sidewalk repairs over by the WAS 87 parking lot. So this is highly trafficked by the folks that park there and then walk over to the Children's Discovery Museum. We had to put in, we elected to put in a key card reader to one of our offices at the employee garage over here that's used by our security contractor. They were using a physical key for a long time. We wanted them to have badge access, not only for their security, but for ours. And then at the command center, which we've shown you guys pictures, there's an internal door that leads into the actual control room, if you will, where they sit and manage the whole portfolio. They did not have a security badged access to get into that room. We had a situation where a woman who was upset with an interaction because she couldn't get into the garage with her license plate, jumped over the counter at the facility and was threatening to break into that office. So we went ahead and spent a couple of grand to put in a key card reader to ensure you could get into the space. Because those people work 24/7, 365. So in an instance where somebody came to the door under the auspice of needing some assistance or wanted to ask a question, of course, they have to be let into the office at that point, but then there was nothing stopping them from getting further into the building. Did some water diversion work with our public works department. There was water that was spilling in and off of that ledge, which was leading to some erosion. So we put in little metal diverters. At the 4th and San Fernando garage, we had taken off all of the doors in the stairwells because they were rusting and starting to rot after 10, 15 years from rain, from other fluids accumulating around. Unfortunately, we did not take those off just solely on our own, accord. We coordinated with the fire department at one point and were told that it was fine to remove them. A year or two later, it was identified through a fire inspection that they were actually fire rated doors and were required to come back. Since the old doors were no longer viable, we put in new doors at the facility. So nice and clean new doors with operable handles and everything else. Is that the last of it? So that's a little just
That's
update
incredible.
on
Thank
what
you.
we've spent, roughly, probably
You add it all up, but what it
$8
come
million
up with?
Probably, the bulk of it was the elevators,
Yeah.
all the minor between.
Other than the 6.3, what's the rest add up to? Over two.
I'm thinking
Yeah.
6, we had 700 and some odd for the lighting and another probably 500,000-600,000 for
Yeah,
all the other
paving
minor.
job is
2.
280.
1.2,
Yeah.
$1.3 million.
Yeah.
With the little stuff.
Yeah.
And this was all done in the last
This is school year.
12 months.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So. Thanks. Jump into 5E. Beth, are you gonna pull that up or are we just gonna walk through the paper?
Got it, ready?
I like it.
So Ace is gonna lead the presentation. I'll jump in as needed.
All right, I'm happy to get started. Hello, everybody. Ace Valentine. I've been with the city since July of last year. If I can go to the next slide. We start this, obviously, the security contract came before I got here. The city undertook the process in May of 2022. They hired Good Guard as the vendor in April of 2023. And I came on in July of last year. Total value of the contract, 1.5 million. And that gives us, if we can go on to the next slide, that gives us me, the project supervisor. It gives
Well, just real quick, so the 1.5 is not.
not for me,
Yeah.
for the 1.5 is for
That's
Good
not our
Guard.
contract. Staff.
For the Good Guard, SJPD is part of our total portfolio, but they're not part of that 1.5. The 1.5 is just for the 20 staff of Good Guard. We have a 24/7 supervisor coverage as well as vehicle coverage, and we have stationary guards at the facilities Monday through Friday during the working hours. On Fridays and Saturdays, we have 1 sergeant and 4 officers. These SJPD personnel are responsible for clearing out the garages on the weekend when obviously downtown has a lot more traffic with the bars open and things of that nature. They also assist with removing long parking vehicles and citations and controlling the crowds and interactions within the facilities. Next slide.
So just real quick, just to go jump on SJPD, they're not super active to the public. I mean, they're kind of behind, you won't actively see, they're not sitting there, moving cars in the garage and, wanding people in and out and everything. But they're throughout the downtown on those hours on Friday and Saturday evenings. We have overtime officers working on our account, if you will, dedicated solely to the parking garages. So they're not responding to anything else downtown. They are in and around our garages downtown and surface lots on those weekend hours. They know where their hotspots are. They're coordinating with the broader PD team as to what's happening downtown. And like Ace said, they do assist us when we identify vehicles that have been, for lack of a better word, abandoned in a garage, starts to collect dust. They will assist in running the plate to determine, the status of it and if necessary, towing it. But I think just the presence from a, visual perspective when they're driving through is great for our facilities,
Yeah, definitely. And as well as, like I said, it's busy during the evening hours of the weekend. So having that presence definitely does help control. And if anything happens, we have immediate response because as you know, San Jose PD is very short staffed. So if we didn't have that detail, it'd be really hard to get a response in a timely manner to the garages.
You guys carry guns?
No, we don't carry guns, but SJPD carries guns.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, so it's, yes, very helpful to have somebody who has a firearm in necessary situations. We've had a couple interactions where having SJPD definitely helped de-escalate a situation much quicker than with just the stationary guards.
Yeah, our stationary guards, our guards in our facilities are kind of observe, report, and, attempt to deter through, engagement. Hey, guys, can't be here, need to ask you to move along type stuff. But they're not police officers. And we don't ask them to actively engage in any, situation that's going to put them in harm either.
So if you look here, you see our stationary coverage for third, second, second San Carlos, fourth and San Fernando. The schedules are the same Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. and 12 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. Market San Pedro, we have a Monday through Friday, 11 to 3. On Thursday, it goes from 4 p.m. to 12:30 a.m. And then Friday and Saturday, we have 6 p.m. to 2:30 a.m. Obviously, because downtown is just much more busy at that time. Employee garage, we have 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. This covers the broad range of movement from all the employees. Some people work a little bit later, so we have that coverage on the front end as well as on the back end. And as I mentioned before, we have supervisor and mobile patrols, which means just constant monitoring vehicle patrols 24/7, 365. Next slide, please. So if you look at this graph, we also have it on your printout. This gives a breakdown of the incidents by type and the amounts and how much it affects our garages. As you can see, the largest incidents that we deal with are loitering and homelessness. The second is property vandalism. Within property vandalism, it covers basic graffiti as well as structural damages and things of that sort.
Long term, Ace, can you remind me again, what period of time are we talking about here?
For this data, we've done it from September until present time.
Through May, saying.
Yes, through May. Wait, no, I'm sorry, not December. I'm not September,
That's
December.
December through
6 months.
Yeah, it was 6 months.
Is it real?
Yeah, it was 6 months. Yeah, it was December through, because we were trying to get the best data possible. So
the number the percentages.
Yeah.
Seem right in my mind, the number.
Oh, yeah, I said some of my homeless, my vandalism.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah, no, this is from December,
Okay.
because I worked with, the security vendor to to figure out how to properly notate and allocate or collate their
What falls?
data.
Okay.
Right, and we had to work on their reporting, so they had to create a new system, use a new data system to put the information in so that we could get the information out. So prior to that, they didn't have the right systems and the right data collection, to do this. So December was the start when they had everything put together and we could get those things. Yes, correct to the university. We have it a lot lighter. One, because I was able to change the way we patrolled. So we didn't have people hitting hotspots. They just were operating like robots. So we were able to change that. And we also were able to move a lot of vehicles. If you look, the long-term parking, all of those are just what we tagged, but that presence is not what we removed. So we removed a total of 8 vehicles. That removal helps clear the parking lot. So if people don't see, vehicles standing, they won't get the inclination that they can park there. As
You mean
well as
like park there and move in?
exactly.
Okay.
So we don't have a lot
Or
of
vehicles
long-term.
that just sit for long periods of time seem to then gravitate,
More.
people, looking in the windows, what's going on with this vehicle? Like, oh, nobody's clearly watching this thing. It's got a layer of dust on it. And those are the ones that you then see with a broken window because somebody's just been moving around for,
Decided to
yeah.
take
It
a
goes,
nap.
to Bratton's broken window policy. If you clear up the small things, I truly believe it makes for a better security presence and it also makes for a better environment. So that's what we've done. And also the opening of the restaurant here on 4th and San Fernando has actually done a good job within the last couple of weeks of clearing out the issues that we've had with the 4th and San Fernando garage. So again, it's having these businesses move in as well as making our presence more well known. It helps alleviate the issues that we have in the garages.
Can I make one comment? So from my perspective, the loitering homeless and the property vandalism against city property. So those two, to me, are what impact our perception of safety. They're not truly impactful to somebody's outright safety, but when they open the door to the garage and there's somebody sleeping on the stairwell, or they walk by the garage and it's got a tag on it or something like that, those impact those. I think there's still numbers there that are the truly impactful ones to our customers, and those are the vehicle vandalisms, the stolen vehicles, and the emergency services. But as an overall portfolio, it's super, super small. I mean, to have parked tens of thousands of transactions across the portfolio, to have those numbers, it's not great. I get it. If you were one of 7 that had your vehicle stolen, you're going to be concerned. But
It's a small
as
piece of the
a
pie.
small
Did I
piece of-
understand, you said this is 6 months worth of data and I added them up, it's 404 things when you add up the whole pie chart?
Those are incidences where the enforcement officer or security officers had to get on their mobile device and go, okay, I just escorted somebody off the property. I just highlighted a tagging on the garage. Right now, some of that, our parking operator is also responsible for much of these same types of things. If our parking operator out there sweeping up and sees somebody sleeping, they don't call security and say, hey, can you come and get this guy? No, they're shooing them along. Or if they find graffiti, they're cleaning it up before it ever hits these types of things. So to some degree, some of these things are probably a little lower than they would otherwise be, but I think this gives a good sense of where we're at, and we want to continue to build upon this data set and report out.
On the emergency services call, is this the hours outside of when you have officers working?
No, this is emergency services call. It's a catch-all for if someone calls for police or if they call for fire or EMS. So
Yeah.
that's what that category encompasses. So for instance, if there is a physical altercation and I have to call for police and police action is needed, that's emergency services called. If someone has a medical emergency, for instance, we had an individual who had a stroke.
Sorry, I was trying to clarify, does this capture, are those 4 calls, when you're calling your officers, those late night hours on the weekend?
Anytime.
Okay.
Anytime there's that we call police, fire, EMS, that will be emergency services call. as you can see, we don't have that many interactions where we need to call. And, knock on wood, that's a positive.
But it doesn't capture if PD is in the garage and proactively addressing a situation. We didn't call them, they just tackled the situation. Our team isn't even engaged at that point. We don't micromanage
Yeah.
PD when they're doing their jobs in our garages. They're just doing their
The
thing.
404 are all calls that were made to Good Guard, right?
Or they just proactively engage.
Or they're present. So sometimes if EMS, for instance, I gave the example of the person had a stroke.
Right.
EMS responded because someone else called 911 for that individual. Good Guard responded because EMS was present on the scene, and then they made a report based on that.
Right.
So all of these are when reports are made.
And
And
either calls or actions where your folks are there.
yes.
Got
it. And if police are on scene or EMS is on scene, I'm usually notified via the parking operator or via Good Guard. So somebody will notify me and I will have Good Guard make a report. So however they get there, there will be a report taken about that situation.
Police don't. Do they patrol the garages?
Like I said, when we have the Friday and Saturday details, we have them patrolling. Now in the regular,
Like driving through the garage?
Not during the weekdays.
not during the week. Well,
It's not.
correction, during some weekday, whoever has this tour, this beat, and for the life of me, I can't remember the beat, alpha name. Whoever has this beat, if they have the time, they will drive through the garages. Cause I talk to PD often and if they have time, they will patrol like 4th and San Fernando because it's a hot spot and they're aware of that. Like I said, before that, yeah, before that other, yeah, you can switch to the next slide. Yeah, before that, restaurant opened up, 4th and San Fernando was a much bigger problem than it is currently in the last couple of weeks.
To clarify Charlie's question, on the days that we commit them, we pay for them, they do patrol.
Yes.
We do patrol.
Do-
Like all the levels.
Are there any associated stats with their patrols?
Yes, we do have stats. I just didn't put them into this because this was primarily dealing with Good Guard. But I do have stats. The officers report to me once a month on statistics of how many tickets they hand out, how many interactions they have, and what type of interactions occur if they make any arrests or anything like that nature. So in the next meeting, I'll include that. Well, if you look here, this is a breakdown based on the locations. So this shows where we have the most activity and where it's really not affected. As you can see, 4th and San Fernando was our hotspot. It still is to some extent, 2nd and San Carlos, Market Street, the Globe as well. And if you look at the legend, you'll see, for instance, the Globe, loitering is a big issue at the Globe, and it's just primarily because of its location and its parameters. It's a underground location, so if it's cold, if it's wet outside, if I'm houseless, I'm going to try to hide out where it's going to be shielded from the elements.
The record, the two biggest mountains there are the ones the closest to me.
That's
a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Everyone has already noticed that, Charlie.
Stating into the
Is
record.
this student issues or?
No.
Absolutely, it's not.
Actually,
Are we sure?
one thing that the PD pointed out for instance, 4th and San Fernando, that corner right there, PD has noted that if they put a substation there, it would still be an issue. And I believe the issue was because there was nothing there. As if you notice now, with that store being there and increased that traffic, it has decreased the homeless and loitering traffic there because now there's light there, there's activity there. So it's not as much of a dead spot with nothing there.
Isn't it a factor? Isn't it a factor though also that for San Fernando has this middle stairwell that's completely enclosed? Unlike like 3rd Street where the stairwell is exposed to the outside, so you're less likely to do bad things or you hang around. Because
The design of the
design
facilities.
is the middle
Inherently,
stairwell it's a hideout, basically.
Would it make sense to lock that down?
Yeah.
And those doors
The
that,
egress from the other stairwells.
Fire, unfortunately. Yeah, the design of some of them. I mean, that one in particular, Start adding office space on the ground floor, a banquet facility on the top floor, and it's inherently just a different animal when it comes to just those things.
Even the other stairwell is also.
Yeah, especially that center stairwell connects to the rotary, so, you know, it's egress from the rotary, that's the issue with that.
And so we have these stationary guards. So a stationary guard by definition is a guard dedicated to that facility. They're walking top to bottom, front to back, side to side. They're just kind of roaming. But we do ask, you know, based on the impacts on what we're seeing, that they station up in certain areas during critical times. So in a morning, they might be at a ground floor stairwell landing as people are entering and exit the facility, just to have that presence, both from a kind of greeter perspective, and that goes to the end of day as well as people are coming. But outside of that, they're walking the facility, and that's in addition to the vehicle patrols that are going throughout the
So
facility.
one of the things we did in the library, because we were having significant issues in the bathrooms on the second floor, is we put a push bar on the door, because there was a door from the stairwell that literally can go
Just
straight into the bathrooms. And so you could discreetly go up the stairwell, go into the bathroom, and there's a lot of activity, all kinds of various stuff. We locked that door from the stairwell. And so you could push bar it getting out the other way, so the fire marshal were good.
Yep.
But we've stopped the traffic, so now anyone who wants to get to that bathroom has to walk through the public area to get, and so it's possible, the bathroom's still used, but it's not used for what it wants.
So we're looking at that same strategy at Fourth and San Fernando, at the stairwell entrance, right next to where the homey is was open. There's a ground floor doorway that we're looking at putting just that type of a situation in, where it's locked from the outside, but you can walk down the stair and just exit out. So we're exploring that.
Yeah.
It wasn't originally designed with that because it was two doors, it needs a mullion in the middle, it's a whole thing.
The Fourth and St. John, that's the city staff parking lot, right?
Yes, that's the employee parking lot, yes.
They got a lot of vandalism.
Oh, yeah. I think unfortunately, some of that is city on city employees, bumping into each other and then.
Yeah,
driving off.
that's what a
But
lot of that
also,
is.
keep in
More
mind,
cameras.
keep in mind, the city employee garage is open to the public after 6 and the weekend.
Yeah.
So it is subject to.
And it's free,
Outside, and it's free.
It's 100% free.
100%.
There's six.
After 6, the toll.
Hey, drive some traffic there.
Yeah.
More people walking in and out, better.
Forget that we told.
So convention center
Great.
South Hall, those numbers are super low. Is that just the design of that garage?
Well, convention center, you don't really have a whole lot of problems in convention center because of the lights and the activity. If I was a houseless person, why am I gonna try to go where it's most crowded, right?
Right.
You wanna sleep where it's quiet, so I'm not gonna go where it's noisy.
It
And
takes an adventure to get in there. You gotta like, go
Yeah.
in
and
and.
everybody sees you when you're going in. So it's just, there's a lot of lights, there's a lot of action in there constantly. South Hall, it's a open lot, so you can't really take shelter unless you had a vehicle to take shelter in. The Alma-Denoise, we don't have an issue there, again, because it's a big, large, open lot, and most of the houses stay in that park that's there. Alma-Denoise, we had an issue prior, before the city cleared out the back end of WAS 87 correction, and now we don't have any issues over there. Because the creek's been cleared and those bike paths have been cleared, so you just don't have any activity over there.
What's the source of funds for the 1.5 for the contract? Is that out of the parking fund?
Yes.
Um,
And that increased with the new contract, so we added money to ensure. We didn't used to have the same amount of stationary guard coverage that we had under our old contract. So as we went into this new contract, we added some money to it, knowing that we wanted to expand that. The vehicles are great. They afford us the ability to cover the entire portfolio very quickly. We have two of them just, systematically going through, but having those kind of boots on the ground dedicated to an individual facility, it was super important to us, so we added those funds. And it also
Multi-year
gives people a
contract or
custom.
one-year
We
contract?
started to have-
Multi-year contract.
Yeah. We started to have.
2028. If that's gonna be on the first slide. If you look at the timeline, so the end of,
Yeah, 20 March 2020.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So within this chart, it's buried within the $7 million.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yep.
It's a contract, yeah. This is my, and also the police officers that you just described are down there.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah, and, it's $350.
You don't get much of that.
Whatever, the Friday, Saturday
Yeah,
evening.
which one?
7,007,6 DOT contract, non-personnel.
Yep. So our parking operator and our security vendor would be our two biggest contracts.
This is all new too, right?
What's that?
Well, this whole program is,
It's a new vendor.
It's a new vendor, it's
Yeah.
the same
We had
program,
a
we've
vendor
expanded some elements of it, it's more expensive.
so if I have a member who's at 6 a.m. on a Sunday morning being chased by somebody with a knife from the
Call
morning
911.
sandpit. Right,
Yeah, that's what we tell everybody, if it's a real security, real safety issue, 911 always, every single time. Our signs are plastered throughout our facilities with an 800 number that's 24/7 dispatch for the security guard. I actually used it this morning as I came in. There was a bad duffel bag, drop there, presumably, potentially, either came from outside stolen or in a vehicle. Called the security dispatch number. They sent the vehicle over, they took pictures, captured the stuff.
and everybody knows to call the San Jose 911 number, right? Not the 911 number that goes to CHP, right?
Well, not everyone knows the direct dial.
Yeah. To say that everybody knows it.
But if you say that there is a knife or any type of weapon, they're there within literally 3 minutes.
Yeah.
That's my experience. So they're very fast. If there's a weapon involved, it's
Priority one,
That's a
yeah.
different issue.
Yeah, but just making the call, I try to tell people to make the call because that's how they gather the data to know where the hotspots are.
That's also what I tell the security details is that anything we try to make a report with PD if it's a police action so that they have data. So that we can increase funding.
Right. Well, also just so that they know where to go.
Yeah.
Your water, power, and-
Because we don't have that full information.
So we can jump into 6A. So we reported out on our budget back in March, and since that time, there have been some minor changes to that. So we'll take the opportunity in this June meeting to provide you with the most recent data. Now, that being said, there's gonna be more changes at this 11th hour stage in early June, but we need to put something down at this period. So there have been more changes in May in the proposed budget, which are outlined here, most of which were decreases to the numbers. So those are showing as red from our original first column on the left, the March proposed to the May. Little decrease in revenue projection in the Watson garages, just a little more information available on the budget office and conversations with them. So we dropped our revenue estimate slightly.
Where do we stand for the forecast for this year? Is it reasonably close to what?
It's,
I would, I think we might actually get a little bit over this, but yeah. It's gonna be, we're not gonna fall into the 11th.
we're a little higher on parking meters for 24-25 at 3.3. For the lots and garages, we're 12 still, we're flat.
And that's the year end estimate.
No, I thought you were asking about the projection for this coming fiscal year.
The end of
Words,
this
the
year.
The projection through June 30th would be
For 23-24.
23-24.
Oh, okay, sorry.
We're all close to the end of that, huh?
Yeah.
I mean, we're pretty much right on, we're 12.
Yeah.
But let me see if that number is,
The thing was, it used to be 15, right?
Yeah.
More than that.
in the heyday of
Yeah.
pre-COVID, it was 19 if you.
Overall,
both.
yeah.
Yeah, for lots and.
It was like 15 and 4.
Yeah.
Our overhead went down, which was a positive. Our personnel services did go up. That's city staff costs. So very little change there on the operating budget side of the house. Also included in this is, and there hasn't been any change, but we just provided the full, this is the city budget document printout of our capital program. So in 24-25, on the last couple of pages, you'll see this page here is kind of the most representative of each of the line items within the capital budget. A lot of the projects that I outlined earlier that we completed fall into that minor parking facility improvement line, which is $1.5 million. So that affords us the flexibility to undertake a lot of these projects. Elevator upgrades, we're gonna be finishing through the early part of next fiscal year. There's some additional funds being added in there. And then in the out years, we have just a placeholder in the event. 250 really gets you, you know, some repair, not any kind of replacement, but we should be, these are gonna be 10-year plus long projects on the elevators.
What's the garage facade improvement, 6.48?
So that's the Market Street garage.
And what's the set?
So it's nearing going out to bid. So we're hopeful to go out to bid later this summer. We can get our ducks in a row. The big push for us is to get this thing underway and completed in time for Super Bowl, which is February of 26.
Why wouldn't that then be in the 24-25? That's what I was.
Because it's budgeted already. We have the money and we pushed it forward. So
I've already
basically,
carried it over. to
what'll
next
end up
year.
happening is you'll see it in our next report out as money's in 24-25. We're gonna move it to the next year because it's unspent, unencumbered. But it'll be required when we enter into the contract.
It's a timing thing, Charlie. Right now, it still sits there, but I've already made a contact at the budget office to move those funds over.
So our beginning balance is gonna go up by 60. And it just, because we didn't spend it.
Yeah, and that would be true for most of the line items that have unspent monies. And we either allocate them to a project or it drops down to the fund balance.
Hey, Charlie, real quick, I pulled those numbers. So our final year end estimate for lots and garages is 12.168, and for the meters is 3.116. So we're right on it.
Good. Is there, so, because we just reduced the number from 12,250 down to 12. And this is noise. So-
Yeah, no,
I agree, it's noise, but me, I would think we're looking to try to recover and send signals of the downtown is recovering and try to grow our parking numbers year over year. And I mean, it's a signal we send to people with the budget.
I mean,
And when we have a flat budget, that's signaling to people, you know, most people's opinions of downtown today is it's other than nights, you know, and weekends, there's nothing going on here. So it just, for the noise level here, I don't think you change anything, but I think to me, budgets are signals to the community of what's going on, what's happening. And the mayor is going to be saying downtown is active and vibrant. I forget that we're the #1 downtown in the Bay Area, right? It's comparing us against, you know, two losers, you know, we're less of a loser, I guess, but it's too careful, this is recorded. But
So what did you say?
so good. It could be my last year. To me, the budget's a signal.
yeah, I mean, I think we are somewhat conservative, but in very, very close alignment with what we were projecting. I mean, we're not gonna say 13 million to put out a, you know, air of, oh, things are all great, but only hit 12.
I agree with that too.
So
I agree.
but we're not gonna say we're gonna do 11 and then come in at 12 and go, we're amazing. We're saying we're gonna do 12, 12.1, you know, whatever the number is, but we're right in it. We're trying to be as realistic as possible.
Nobody looks at these numbers, Charlie, but you and I.
Fair
And us.
Fair enough.
I have two questions, actually. Do you separately count, track, you must be able to track, those who actually buy monthly passes in the garages?
Yeah.
How is that going over time? Because that's really the office workers, right?
Yeah, it's down. And I
Has there
think
been
that's
any,
Yeah.
that's the type of
has it
detail we're
even-
gonna bring.
has it stopped going down?
Yeah,
Is it going up?
No.
I mean, that's the best track to see whether the office people are back.
And that's what in the work plan when I said garage occupancy
I'd
is
love
gonna
to see
dovetail
those
into
numbers for the
the.
last 5 or 10 years.
Yeah,
If we have,
that's what we're gonna plan to.
that would be really fun to see. And then since these numbers are so close, I'm really excited that the staff are beginning their bonus at the end of this year for being so spot on.
We all won a 1 week trip to Hawaii, you know, we're all up to take.
All they do is get a pat on the back.
Well,
Oh, there you are. That's even more. Pat on the back is better than a slap in the face.
Just a thought.
So we will report out on that, and give you a little flavor of where we were, if you will, where we are now, and where we are going. Yes, and as we've said in the last handful, you know, where we're going, at least in the horizon that we have from a perspective, and that's where we're gonna look to OED to bring some more flavor to what the future might hold in a short period, but, you know, ours is fine.
Of the 7,
So. Move it. Yes, last, jump on it, 7A and B.
All right, so 7A is the USDOT Smart Grant update. I think this is my third verbal update on the USDOT Smart Grant. Remind everyone that it is a 2 million pilot project that the focus of it is to digitize the curb space, test with technologies, and to first collect the inventory of the space, collect the restrictions, the regulations. And the second phase would be, not second phase, second component of the project is the installation of sensors/cameras to monitor activities. So currently, so we entered into agreement with the USDOT in September 2023. The project is 18 months. It will end in March 2025. So we still have from now to March to make it happen. So we did the procurement. We selected a company called Mojo. They are out of Chicago for the project. The platform, software platform, plus the hardware that we're gonna install. And we have a small amount from the fund, from the grant to dedicate to community engagement and community outreach. That company is Placeworks. They're a California company, and they are doing currently some work with PD as well. So that's basically on the.
Are both those contracts let already and in place and approved by the city
Yes,
council?
yes, yeah, both of them are, we got the authorization early on. And they went into executed to start now in June. All right, I don't know if you, just one more thing I forgot to mention, so what we are trying to do with this project is to test the hardware, but the software platform we're gonna have for ongoing basis. We are hoping from this exercise is to issue 3 APIs, so anyone, any vendor interested in providing services to the public, you know, to offer those. And those APIs will be the curb APIs, which basically tells you where the parking is and where the restrictions are. The second one will be the events. It means what's happening at the curb, like is the space occupied, is the space not occupied? And the third API would be for metrics, and we use those for analytics. That's on the 7A, which is the USDOT Smart Grant. The other update I have is for AB 413, which went into effect on January 1st. And it is related to daylighting for traffic safety. And basically the bill introduced 20 feet buffer wherever there's a crosswalk. So you cannot park a vehicle within 20 feet of the crosswalk.
On the approach side.
On the approach side, of course, of the, or 15 feet if it's an extended curve. So this is massive to the city. I'm told that there are about 60,000+ crosswalks throughout the city. But since we are downtown parking and operations, the first task we thought of, since we are letting people park in at our meter spaces, I was telling them, yes, you can park and you have to pay. We felt like immediately we need to tackle this issue, to remove those spaces that are not in compliance so that we won't create unsafe conditions. So our task was to identify in all the meter spaces in downtown and outside downtown and make the necessary changes to make them compliant with the 20 feet or the 20 feet of the crosswalk or the 15 feet with the, if there is an extended crosswalk. So we identified about 40 out of the 25, roughly 2,500 spaces were identified, only 40 that were impacted. And we were able to, we had to delete 30 spaces off the portfolio. And we modified 10 to save them. Like they are compliant, but we have to do some adjustments on the form. So right now, we're gonna expand a little bit and start looking at non-metered spaces within downtown also, where there are freight loading zones, passenger loading zones, and anything, or any other type of parking that is not metered. We're already starting.
They're making me really happy, because I want to get more makers out of it.
Yeah.
Have these 30 already been removed?
Yes, or in the metered spaces, the metered spaces are all gone.
You cut the meters off and they're gone.
Everything is complete. The project is complete. The challenge with this project is that it passed, but they didn't provide funding. And
Shocking.
And they did not also communication to the public, like, does anyone know that they cannot park within 20 feet of?
I'm shocked to get.
Yeah, it's California wide, right, statewide, and
So every neighborhood with unmarked parking is still applicable to this, but there's no palms.
The residential crosswalk for a school.
anything that's.
Every unmarked crosswalk, like in my neighborhood, is,
You have to paint red 20 feet from the corner.
you don't have to paint it.
You don't
You
have
just
to
can't park
know.
there.
You just
You
can't
just have to
park.
know.
Okay.
It's
Just like
like
you
a
have to know
hydrant.
you can't park in front of a fire hydrant.
So who's enforcing this? The police going around and give people tickets for this?
So the law, the law says you can't issue citations immediately. You have 1 year, you can issue warnings, but after a year, you can start issue citations. But imagine if the public doesn't know about it and you have a space and curve that is halfway red, not completely red, but that doesn't comply. So it's confusing message to the public, I think.
We need to develop our own, like this just recently passed, we're just getting through our own development of a game plan to tackle it, of which obviously the easiest low hanging fruit was, hey, spaces that we've identified, marked off with Ts and put a meter on, those have to come away. Next are other identified zones like loading zones and such that are also marked. And then from there, it's what is the next phase? It's gonna be iterative over, presumably a somewhat long runway till we figure out how to tackle this. Especially given the lack of resources and funding. Yeah, Jordan, I know you had your hand up.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, this is state law now, and I'd really ask that the city lean into this policy, and yes, I've talked about this with the bicycle advisory committee as well, but figured I'd cover all my bases since it was on your agenda today. The cities around the country that have done best at preventing pedestrian fatalities and livening up their downtowns have done so in large part because of implementation of daylighting. Hoboken, New Jersey hasn't had a pedestrian fatality in 7 years. And they basically daylighted every intersection in their entire downtown. And, not just through regulations, but also through physical infrastructure as well. One specific thing as it relates to the issue of parking. So the regulation in state law does allow for bicycle parking in the daylighting zones. And so again, on the theme I brought up earlier about, allowing people to park downtowns that they don't drive and then someone else can drive and park instead. One way of increasing the supply of bicycle parking is to use those daylighting zones to install bicycle parking. Not everywhere, just, in places where it might make sense to. And there's already 2 examples in downtown of that being done already. So there's one bicycle parking daylighting in front of Academic Coffee. And then there's one in the SOFA intersection at First and San Salvador by the old movie theater that's now a climbing gym. And so there's examples of it being done in the city. And so it's something to think about because it allows for a different type of parking. And it also is a way of not needing enforcement because there's a physical thing that is sort of telling people you can't park here because there's something physically there instead. So thank you for your consideration.
Yeah, it's a great comment, and we made our team that is responsible for bike that there is an opportunity if they have the funds to install in those spaces that we now is a buffer for no parking. Alright. Spread the word.
Quickly wrapping up, so downtown promotions and marketing, Alex, if you'd like to highlight anything there, if this is a kind of standard placeholder.
Thanks, Arian. I'd be happy to. So we just awarded 20 art grants, $5,000 grants to art organizations. We had 60 applied, 21 awarded. We got approval again for this coming year, and we also, Arian, you may or may not know this, the Knight Foundation is redoing their commitment as well. So for transparency, DOT gave us $40,000 for these grants last year, micro art grants.
As a part of the annual
As part of the annual
contract with the
contract.
downtown association that they have with the city.
And the Knight Foundation saw that, I explained it to them and they matched it. And they matched it because they said they were like route members, so they gave us 60,000 instead of 40. Which is great. So we had $100,000 to give away. We had to kind of figure out how to do it the best way, and we decided we just make it even $5,000 grants, 20 of them. We had 60 organizations apply, 20 were awarded, and we're now working on how to make it more accessible to everyone for next year. So we may give the organizations that have gotten the award this year a little bit of a disadvantage when we score for next year so that it's spread out into other organizations as well. The way it's relevant here is that there is one condition attached to the grant, and that is that all organizations need to use their marketing to promote city-owned parking facilities. So when they attract visitors to their events, they need to make sure that it is loudly announced that there is plenty of 90-minute free parking in our garages or most of that, and utilize that. The other things I can report is Dine Downtown and Starlight Cinema are events that we're doing also in partnership with the city. And they always have a parking component that we strongly promote. When we attract people to come to downtown, take advantage of the parking structures that we have, ample parking, most of them 90 minutes free. During those days, we have a Pomodoro's Night Market that just got launched in South SoFa, same thing there. It's a humble event. The last event was the first one, and we counted about 300 plus attendees, which is, it's okay. And it's a small neighborhood event. It's really fun. I was there. But for people that come from the area and use their car, they're being made aware that there's parking available right there for them, 90 minutes free. The champions that we utilize, I don't know whether you all know them. They are grassroots marketing people, the SJSU students, most of them, that we pay $20 to $22 an hour, depending on their role. And they walk around in polo shirts and hats and things and promote downtown, connect businesses. And what they have done nicely is they have made sure that all businesses now have laminated free parking signs for their storefront. There's some resistance from some businesses. They don't want to put it up, but the majority of them are very open and appreciative of receiving that, and they're putting it into their windows. So that is a campaign that is continuing to be kind of canvassed throughout downtown. We also go to different events. We have tables there, champions are there promoting downtown with QR codes to sign up for our events and activations. And there's always, again, a parking component to it, promoting, did you know that there's plenty of parking in downtown, and a lot of the structures have 90-minute free parking. We are working on, that's the last thing, we're working on a summer campaign. Just kind of pull together all the many events that are happening in the summer. We picked like 10. I think it is of the biggest events, most impactful events for downtown, and put them into one flyer, into some branded campaign that we will disseminate possibly through door hangers, it's like canvas area, single family homes, and then flyers at the half size of a regular sheet. I don't know what size that is formally. That we will put into residential high rises and apartment buildings in downtown. And once again, it has the parking and the free 90-minute parking information on it as well. So,
Excellent. Thank you, Alex. 8B, update on events and activities, and really kind of two bigger ones that I think will impact downtown as a whole. The first being Freedom Friday, which is June 9th. This weekend. The second being a series, which I was made aware of, which is the Music in the Park events that are going to happen this summer, June, July, and August on various dates throughout the summer. So check those out. Those will historically, the Music in the Park was a big draw to the parking facilities, particularly second in San Carlos. So our team will be aware of those, have additional staffing, and have them kind of prepped for a higher level of occupancy on those dates.
And then the park is Caesar Shops.
Yes.
Yep. Are there 4 dates? Alex? Is that
There are 4 days.
4 dates. So
It's actually double days, so he's now doing Saturday, Sundays. And the lineup that I've seen is pretty good. I mean, even Beach Boys are on there. They're still performing.
Those are still alive.
They're still alive. They're doing,
Are you doing movies at St. James?
yes, we are.
Yeah, and that's another.
Thank you for asking. That's really important to me. And this is something that it's a little bit, I'm deviating away from what the focus of the sport is, but St. James Park really pains me, because when I came to this community about a year and a half ago, that was the park that I saw where it's like, oh my God, this is amazing. Downtown has great recreational facilities. And then I looked closer and I was like, oh, never mind. And I thought, oh, this is low hanging fruit. We can fix this quickly. And it's so not low hanging fruit. And there is currently very little political appetite, I find, that's my personal opinion, to actually address St. James. Cesar Chavez is being talked about a lot, and I think they've made great strides, with the sensible improvements that J. Paul supported together with the city. And that's really cool. I really love the way it looks now. But St. James is just such a lost opportunity. So I would love to see this activated. I met with the Men's Club that's adjacent to the park. Yeah,
Who's
St.
suing
Clair.
everybody?
Not everybody. I mean, they were suing, I actually met with them because of that. They lost a lawsuit, and I wanted, what lawsuit? I wanted to know more what's going on with Levitt and what the proposal was and why they opposed it. And I sat with them, and it was a really good meeting. And they are very much in favor of activating and bringing that park back. They just have a little bit of a different idea of what it is. They want activation on it even. It's not that obvious. I was told by, people that hate them because they're all against Levitt and against the music and against the concerts and against everything, I was told. And that's all not true. I mean, they really want activation. They just want sensible activation to make sure that this park becomes a really beautiful place for people like you and I to enjoy and walk around, read a book, and it's just, and have activations, but not, what was proposed was like, what was the number of concerts? It was like huge, like
It was too much.
300
I spoke with
events.
somebody who was on from that group.
like
One of the main things was that they have no bathroom plan. So they're planning
Right.
something like 500 concerts a
500
year,
concerts
500 a year.
a year.
365 days.
Yeah,
I mean,
and no plans for the bathrooms.
no,
Not
and
gonna
not just bathrooms, they also explained to me the traffic infrastructure around the park, it's very limited, there's not like multi-lane
Yeah, you got the
areas that you can
traffic,
circle,
light rail on both sides.
So you have to be careful what you attract and how you attract things. So I'm actually, and they're very much in favor of it. I mentioned, what's that park in New York that everyone talks about? No,
Or.
Bryant Park.
Oh, Brian.
And we had no, because Bryant Park is being managed by somebody and he is apparently doing a really good job activating the park in a really nice way and makes good money with it too. And he was invited to speak for Cesar Chavez. I was actually at that meeting. And I was thinking to myself, Bryant Park and St. James Park, a lot more similar actually. And it's like, why would we not bring that guy in to maybe also give some advice about how to redevelop St. James Park? And the men's club is actually open to it. And I said, would you be able to maybe fund some? And they said, money is not the issue for that. They just want this to done properly. And I want to explore with them more and see whether, and you seem to be very,
Well, it's
maybe we'll
because-
get together.
Yeah,
and
I'd
do
love to,
something.
because I talked to the men's club specifically because I knew some of the members and I was
Mhm.
curious about how this was all being positioned with San Jose Spotlight and so
Yeah.
forth. I was like, what's going on? I
Right.
really want to know what's up. And the way he explained it, 500 concerts, which is way too many, no bathroom infrastructure
No traffic.
and no
infrastructure.
traffic plan. And they would technically lose their historical designation as
Yes.
a park with that Levitt Pavilion plan. And knowing that could have some ramifications down the line as far as protecting the park and its infrastructure, you can't do that with a park of its magnitude. So they were all very reasonable, but it's interesting that the public perception of it is skewed so far, like, oh, it's very
I know.
anti.
It's so polarized and I like a lot today.
Mhm.
And I was really happy that I reached out myself. And I would love to maybe grab you and then maybe
Yeah,
we'll visit them
glad to.
together again. Sean seems, is it Sean? The general
I
manager?
talked to,
I think it's Sean.
no, somebody else from the club.
Okay, so I talked to the general manager and that's a member who brought me in and they're very open to it.
Yeah.
And possibly maybe we can do something, I would love to look at activating that park. Talked to the Knight Foundation, by the way, just FYI, about the option too. If they want to invest in the downtown, that could be potentially a useful investment. Because we have a
Yeah.
substantial recreational area that is that big. That will actually, I think, attract companies to come to downtown. Because their employees will go like, whoa, this is really cool, what's going on there? And it's in close proximity to San Pedro Square. And there's a lot of stuff, that could be done to make this. Really
And more
nice.
activation
For
will
sure.
keep out the problems.
Yeah,
Which
but in the
is-
meantime, David, yes, so circling all around back, yes, there is a Starlight Cinema, we have 4 screenings. One on July 20, we're doing in partnership with the Earthquakes, as you all know, hopefully, they're celebrating the 50th anniversary. And we're helping with a little bit of promotion of that. And so they may actually, we're working on that right now, they may be screening a game in the park in the afternoon. Because they're playing, I think somewhere in the Midwest. And then after that, there will be some activation and then there will be Kick and Scream. It's the movie that we're screening to kind of acknowledge soccer and their 50th anniversary. So it should be actually a bigger activation than others. And the first one is Barbie. So look out for it. Get out your pink outfits.
Thanks for all that. I didn't know all those details. I just read an article in the paper.
So there used to be an event
Conflicting people.
Yeah. it-
called the music and the other part.
I just work here.
It just is very.
It's always used to be consistent, like
Yeah.
2-3
How long
times a
ago was
year.
that?
Ask Julie about it.
Okay,
That was a while ago.
was that something we did or?
Music in the park, yeah.
Music and the other.
Yeah, it was
Oh,
in St. James.
So that's.
We do?
Yes, and yes. Yes.
I think there's some post, maybe just to wrap, we can take those offline.
See,
So city council committee agenda items, so obviously the city budget is matriculating through the process. That'll be heard, I believe, next Tuesday is one of the last.
but Monday shows up big. 6 PM to midnight.
So I mean-
You have 6 hours to kill.
I'm meeting with
Listen to
Omar for
everybody
lunch
complain
right
about
after
it.
this. Is there anything that I already talked to him, but I have a feeling this has calmed down, Harry, am I right?
I haven't heard anything.
Yeah, I haven't either. Okay.
One item related to parking, but it's broader than downtown. It's a citywide thing. On the 18th, there is a memo going to council to increase citation fine amounts for a handful of infractions, which kind of run the gamut from safety violations, bike lanes, street sweeping, meter parking. Meter violations. Yeah, $5, I believe, was the increase.
40 to 45.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then some are, you know, whatever the threshold is.
Just
But the other.
burn the knife.
Sorry. Yeah, it was a range. A couple of them actually went up.
30%. Everything's gone up 30% in the last 30 months.
So that'll be at June 18th.
Thank you for that. Anything else?
That's it.
I'd like to note that the meeting ended at 11:28.